Trump's two fail sons weren't so much born as they were spawned, and these two dolts don't fall far from the orange tree, taking up the mantle for their daddy's empire of corruption, which raked in an impressive $2.4 billion the first time he was in office, which is a literal order of magnitude larger than his net worth was before politics. And since we didn't punish him at all for it the first time, he did it again the second time, and this time he's gone completely off the deep end. His latest crypto stunt with this dinner where people showed up in masks and were served microwaved steaks on Trump-branded plates and gave commemorative cards to people like Lamar Odom who are stupid enough to actually pay money for this. This whole thing was so embarrassing that even staunch MAGA Republicans, whose job it is to go on TV and glaze up Trump like a Christmas ham, even they are saying now is the time to cut ties with these crypto scams. But I get the feeling now that Donald Trump understands that crypto is an unregulated scam fest, there's no way in hell he's letting go of this golden goose, and Dumb and Dumber Jr. are set to have another crypto scam dinner this week. And the only thing going up higher than the amount of scams the Trumps are running is our subscriber count here at Really American when you guys hit the sub button and join our resistance.
Right. He leaned into the crypto bros. He strung them along, got their votes. Now he's got to cut them off. Because, and this is, my issue is less about the president and more about the country. Crypto is a scam.
It is.
And these guys, these investors, they desperately need the government to legitimize their so-called investment. Otherwise, they're going to lose everything. And if they get what they want, which is displacing the fiat currency, the U.S. dollar, we're no longer the reserve currency. We no longer have the power to sanction. We lose everything. So, you know, the senator talking, complaining is rich because it's not like you can't buy access to him by giving money to his campaign. Exactly. So give me a break. Yeah. The problem is what this could do to America.
That's very interesting. It's such an interesting point because I think it is different from what people would expect if you're a supporter of Trump. But it's a more of a national security question, which I think is colliding with, honestly, with Trump's pocketbook because he is in that meeting, not because they necessarily that he wants to hear what they have to say. He's in that meeting because they paid money that is coming to him. Yeah. And which is in direct conflict to what you're saying, which is that what's in the best interest of the country from a fiscal perspective.
Yeah, and they could still get access to him. And I agree with what you were saying earlier. The most precious commodity is the president's time. And the calendar is policy. And by him going to this and spending the time, those precious minutes, it's a mistake.
There's two distinct cast of characters that the Trump family is courting here. First, it's the crypto billionaire grifters, who we'll touch on first, and then it's the actual billionaires and millionaires who will pay for access to the inner circle of the White House through the executive branch. I don't mean the literal executive branch, I mean the private club in D.C. created by Don Jr. called the executive branch. It's so smarmy and disgusting, but they don't even feel the need to hide it because what are the Democrats going to do? Send them a strongly worded email? So far, the Democratic strategy to deal with this corruption has been the same as mine. Rant and rave about it on Twitter, except I am not an elected official. But it's the Twitter folks, the crypto apes, the millionaire influencers, who Trump sees as a vital part of his new coalition. The kind of folks who will be attending this Bitcoin conference that Don Jr. and Eric are attending, as well as the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. So hey, isn't that cool? The cast of characters on the RSVP list for this thing is absolutely insane. They include this guy who went under the rug. I think we mentioned him in a video once, but this is the guy who invented Silk Road, the biggest illegal drug buying website on the dark web. There's this guy, Justin Sun, 34. He became famous for spending $6.2 million on that banana that was taped to the wall. I guess he thought eating it would suddenly make him relevant, which I guess is an interesting consequence of the original art piece. There's Brian Johnson, the 47-year-old tech executive. This guy became famous for using his own son as a blood boy. He's absolutely obsessed with living forever and claims that his organs are as young as an 18-year-old's or something. White House crypto czar David Sachs is another from the Trump orbit who is listed to speak at the Venetian, which is hosting the conference between Tuesday and Thursday. David Sachs is also one of the co-founders of the Executive Branch Club, which we'll talk about in just a second. The Trump family has gone all in on cryptocurrency since his election win. Not only have they publicly endorsed alternative currencies, but they have cashed in to the tune of $2.9 billion from crypto investments, CBS reported this month. Absolutely insane. The entire amount that he managed to grift during his first term, he's already grifted again during the first few months of his second using cryptocurrency. Much of that is tied to a Trump meme coin that critics like billionaire Mark Cuban have called a scam because it has no real-world utility. Well, it has one real-world utility, giving bribes to Donald Trump. And of course, it's these scamming folks who Trump wants to court, and not the establishment Republicans, the Bush-era Republicans, no, but the new MAGA Republicans that Trump is after, the ones who are willing to shell out $500,000 for a membership to the executive branch. An executive branch spokesperson told The Times there is another stringent barrier to entry. You must know one of the club's owners to get through the door. Sounds like a real sausage fest. In addition to Don Jr. and Sachs, there's David Sachs' name, the club is owned by Zach and Alex Witkoff, the sons of President Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff. Wow, Jesus Christ. A bunch of other fail sons. This is not just for any Saudi businessman, the spokesperson reportedly said. It is, however, for the ultra-wealthy. A club invitation first obtained by Politico said the membership will cost as much as $500,000 up front, plus an additional annual fee in the following years. The Trump organization did not respond to the Daily Beast's request for club policies and pricing, of course. Yeah, I'm sure the Trump crime family wants to be real hush-hush, wink-wink, nod about this club. And the whole time, the sons and daughters of the rich and famous around the world are courting the fail sons and daughters of the rich and famous here in America. Who knows what kind of backroom deals are being made in this place? And we get an idea for what's going to happen behind closed doors because they did a dry run not that long ago. Last month, Sachs, David Sachs, there's that name again, co-hosted a launch party at the Occidental. The guest list included an extraordinary range of officials from the new administration. Lobbyists from the pharmaceutical and financial industries were pleased to find themselves in close quarters with the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and the Director of National Intelligence. One attendee later described it as an improvement over the scene at the Trump International Hotel, which was popular during the first term. That was open, the guest told me. You could find Rudy Giuliani, the thorn in this channel's side, pretty tipsy on any given night, holding court in the lobby. The new club has higher barriers of entry. Oh, geez, no Rudy Giuliani's allowed in the executive. It's a sign of how Trump has filled his administration with people who can actually afford that, the guest said. It felt like a White House party, to be honest. Outside Washington, the founding of the executive branch was greeted less warmly. The former New Hampshire governor, Chris Sununu, who voted for Trump twice but occasionally criticizes him, yeah, not good enough there, Chris, derided the club as a money grab. On X, a user wrote that those who supported MAGA now feel we have been played. Let me play the world's smallest violin for you. Marcy Kapoor, a Democratic representative from Ohio, invoked the excess of Nero and called the club a grotesque portrait of ruling billionaires. To quote the late, great Norm Macdonald, I don't know if any of you guys are history buffs, but I'm Tony Hinderman with Really American, and I'll catch you next time.